I will call this meeting to order. Roll her out of order the next time she speaks up. I would ask you all to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're sending?
For attending.
No. Supposed to thank you for attending?
Never mind, you missed it.
I missed the joke, I'm sorry. Whatever. Penny just told a joke and I didn't get it, but that's not the first time. Probably won't be the last either.
Don't worry, Brian.
I'm sure it was funny as hell, but right now it's not working. All right, at this time, the township allows for individuals who would like to address the supervisors on any matter. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. And do we have a list or how are we doing this?
Anybody have a,
Like, ma'am over there. Step right up to the podium there. State your name and address and
This
what's
is
on your
Haney.
mind.
I'm from 1648 Pierce Pancake Slum Ghetto Township. I'm tired and burned out being targeted by the punk rogue, won't take no generation XYZ neighbors, your police department, and you the management. Here are the false police reports made up on me. I had sent a couple of the supervisors there copies of those about 2 years ago. Nothing done. Hilk. Over this matter, I handed straight to him a complaint form. Nothing done. I've asked at 2 other meetings what happened with those complaint forms. Nothing. And
I don't think there's one.
There's not one there. That's just a-
Really here.
it's just
But
a coil. Could you speak up, ma'am, please?
But I do have a response from a police complaint form from last year, from an incident, what I'm dealing with in my neighborhood. And it's pathetic. I have a video of the neighbor and what they did. And I get this, it's despicable. Mr. Maple,
Yes, ma'am.
I left with you a video, a copy of it, and this,
Send it to the township.
and this. I handed it right to you in your
I
office.
know, I sent it to the township.
And nothing done. So nothing was done on that. I also left that with the DA, and I've been in touch with victim advocates. I'm thousands of dollars out for legal expense because you, the management, refuse to enforce your ordinances on these neighbors. Yet here is a letter. You pick and choose who you do that to. Here's my letter from him there, forcing me to comply with a certain ordinance. It should be taken out of the books. It's just a form, another way for you to get money out of us taxpayers, because money's involved. Also out $1,600 in 2 surveys on my property that the neighbor won't accept. Her son keeps taking the stakes out. I had 2. Last one was last April. And the day after it was done, the boy removed the stake. In July, the mother removed it and hurled it at me. That's what that response is for. Nothing was done. And so the stakes keep being removed, and just a week and a half ago, again, the boy took the stake out, stabbed right out there on the property and removing things. So what I'm requesting is a meeting with you here, with the supervisors, Mr. Makel, and 7 police. That's what I want.
Ma'am, let me make a counter suggestion. I would, with the chief's agreement, I would like to have you meet with our chief. and
I've
with-
done that. I've been
Would you
there.
let me finish, please? I'd like you to meet with the chief and our director of administration. Following that meeting, I would ask the two of them to report to the Board of Supervisors what their findings are, and we will
Again.
deal with it. Right
I've
now,
done
believe it
that.
or not, the Board of Supervisors is not aware of your problem. I know you were here before and something about a fence, but the day-to-day
But I've
minute-
done this before. I'm telling you, I've been with him and him before
I'm
at a
trying to
meeting.
get it resolved.
I came down when I was asked to. So you supervisors don't meet with any of the residents.
It's not a normal procedure. We would be
Well, it's not a
bypassing the
normal
staff.
thing. This
We
is
would
elder
be
abuse.
bypassing the staff that we hired to do that job. The chief of police and the director of administration are the people that you need to talk to. They will report to us.
That's what I have thousands of dollars up for an attorney.
Elder abuse.
Chief, will you? All right, we move on. Who else would like to address the board, sir?
Hello, everyone. I'm Tom Pinkowski. I live at 110 Quarry Road. I've lived here since in South Strabane since 1989, so 34 years. I just recently received my South Strabane taxes, and I can't recollect what they were in 1989 when I arrived, but approximately somewhere near $180 a year for my home. Consequently, up to last year, they were raised to $231, which I appreciate. I think that was, a really good job. My new taxes, though, include a new a fire tax, and it raised my taxes 66% in 1 year. Okay. I just like to question, what was the necessity to, raise it so rapidly, so quickly when we were able to hold it so in line judiciously for so many years.
Well, I will respond as one supervisor to your inquiry. There are a couple factors here. Number one, I think the taxes were too low for too long, not allowing us to build up a reserve for when something came off the rails. Something came off the rails, and that was when this township suddenly did not have an adequate fire department. And we had to act. We are legally responsible for the health and safety of this community. We reacted by hiring a professional chief to head the fire department. We have hired, chief, how many people do you have on payroll?
We have 10 full-time folks and 6 part-time.
10 full-time and 6 part-time firefighters, because that's what you need to staff this municipality 24/7. The equipment that they had become substandard over years. And so this professional that we hired and have the utmost faith in came to us and said, this truck doesn't run anymore, this needs upgraded, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, it was a shock to all of us as supervisors, as residents, et cetera, but it's not a game. It's providing public safety to the residents of South Strabane, and we've done it with due diligence. And
Just seems to me that
no, it
judiciously, though, on a fairness status, I mean, I'd like to have a $2 million house and a Mercedes. I can't afford it, so I don't spend that money. On a personal level, I know what my constraints are, and I make sure that I stay within those constraints. It seems to me that it was a little bit excessive.
I understand that, and I appreciate your comments. Next, who's up? Judy?
Judy Panassi, Green Crescent Drive, and I just want to chime in on the fire trucks. Our volunteers used to buy them and it never cost the residents. So if they would have left it in the hands of the volunteers instead of leaving it in the hands of the township, we wouldn't have to buy them. They've done it for years. they raise their own money and get the grant money for it. I'll be speaking during public comment regarding the church. So I just want to say that, like, I will be saying something there too. Sorry, I'm trying to read this. I'm getting old.
Welcome to the club.
That might help. I have my football comments. It's not working. Thank you. Oh, that's great. Thanks. I will be speaking during public comment regarding the churches and offices. I hope that this board listens to the advice of the planners and the engineer who've not approved it. This township is, and if I sound harsh, I'm sorry, my throat's bad. I'm not meaning to sound mean. This township has been trying to add a tax for at least 2 years. It started with the fire hydrant tax that you had in your budget for 2022, but then wasn't passed because the public was against it. And it made no sense to collect money based on a percentage and not a flat rate when it was only $60,000 in cost. You denied it. Last year, you bought 2 fire trucks, something the volunteers have done in the past without costing the taxpayer more money. The fire tax was added this year and people thought it was for the truck. We will not have for years and don't need to start paying on. Did you look at your budget? The tax is for paying wages. I believe not the fire truck. Our regular taxes were paying the wages before. And nothing against the new fire chief, but after slapping all of us with the tax literally within the last week, you're giving him a raise tonight. Some advice. I would have waited at least a month till this was off of people's minds. Last week, State Rep Tim O'Neill had a meeting. He lives in this township. I had to inform him, along with everybody there, that we have the highest millage in the county, higher than Peters, higher than North Strabane, higher than Cecil. Is that what this board and management meant when they said they were going and wanted to be like those places? Because now we're paying their taxes. Every one of you knows me. I've been coming to meetings and more involved than any of you sitting on this board. I say that because I know what some of you promised, what you knew were problems and have never addressed after making them campaign promises. And I know what the people of South Strabane have been saying for years at meetings. And not just this, zoning, planning, everything. I go to it all. The development that is being pushed has never been, the development, not tonight's thing, but the other stuff being pushed has not been something that people have wanted. When people hear about our taxes that don't live here, they say to me, don't you have all that mercantile tax? You should be doing great. Then I have to explain how we cater to developers, pay for fire trucks that are 20 years old and don't pass inspection, and so on and so forth. We have 2 people doing the job. Well, we did. He's gone. That one man did for years. I looked at your budget myself and I could cut hundreds of thousands easily. You may not like me, but I actually have degrees and knowledge and I care about this community. I do my research and I actually talk to residents. I hope you listen to the residents tonight as they give you information and input regarding the public hearing. You didn't listen to the Scavatis or planning regarding Meadows Landing, and you approved a development that pushed to get approved only to come back the next month and say they weren't coming. Then Burkett Manor got their sewage and we got the bill for Meadows Landing not coming. You are not unintelligent people. Do you not see what has happened? And now we have found out that there are 191 deficiencies to the Meadows Landing project. So I'm almost done. One of you on this board, he is not here tonight, called Mrs. Scavati foolish last year. And everybody in the room heard it, but she warned you and she was right. Maybe you need to hire her instead of insulting her and allowing her property to be damaged. Please tonight, do not fall for the bait and switch that this township has done so many times. And also, I would just like to say, you guys might want to check to make sure nobody wants to do public comment on Zoom, since they should be doing that. Thank you. Probably stretched it. I've got it.
No problem. Okay.
Yes, I'm on Zoom. Mrs. Scavati, I would like to speak when it's my turn.
Yes, ma'am. When it's your turn, who else do we have here? Anybody? Sir?
All right, Zach Morgan, 197 Van Station Road. It's true, I'm running for township supervisor. I got some big I guess fans, George and Wildcat, that are stage 4 clingers. But
Speak up. I can't understand what you're
okay,
saying.
I'm talking about some of my fans out there, George and Wildcat, but they're putting out some false stuff, but it's fine. There was a surplus. It got run through. Mr. Murphy brought that to your guys' attention. It's the massive payroll increase of 28% for one individual, a 23% for another, a 26% for another, an 8, and then a 6. This is from a 2021 to a 2023. That does not reflect on the residents. Nobody around here gets a 26% pay increase in that short time. Did anyone else get that? So you can't keep up. The fire truck needs replaced, so we have to get a new one, but it's not good enough to get rid of the old one. We got to keep it too, because that was brought up, and so we want to keep that, but we need a new one. And what's the percent of finance rate on it? So over the 20 years that you're going to finance it, what's that percentage rate? Right now you have $600,000 in the American Rescue Fund. That's not really your money. The Treasury Department doesn't get to determine how it's spent. It's Congress. They need to do a congressional rescission and take the money back, but that's going to bail you out this year for the bad management. Next year, you're $600,000 in the hole, which really makes you about 1.1 million. So taxes are going to go up. The fire taxes to help cover the payroll. I think the zero turn, we need to put the duct tape on the seats, push another 2 or 3 years, whatever. We want a new Ford Explorer fire truck for the chief, a new fire truck F-150. We want iPads for the supervisor. So I guess they can play Candy Crush while we're up here and they're not really listening or something. I don't know.
I'd like to show you right now. I do that on iPad. I bought it myself.
And that's how it should be.
Everything on here
And that's how it
is
should be. But we
what's
should
on
not
it.
buy it. But we should not buy it.
I don't like that kind of comment because I
Well-
bought this myself and everything on here is.
Okay, I didn't bring my iPad.
Thank you.
So,
Go ahead.
okay.
Clean it
In
up.
2015, we had a tax increase, right, with the property reassessment, but that wasn't enough. The township's not living within its means. So it's all about wants. Just look at the wants. It's not need. Yes, we need the bulletproof vest. That's something that's a need. These are things that you need. You do need some fire stuff. But there's all this want that's not there. And Russ, I think you're a great guy, but I think you need to abstain from voting on the budgets. How do you vote your boss a 26% increase? Vote your wish list that you need for your department. That's not representing the residents. I just don't get that part. If that's the case, then Brandon would be, his best case scenario would find 2 more employees to put on the board. That's a 3-0 vote. He can have anything he wants. I don't know. That's just common sense. So that's
Just
all.
for clarification, sir, the precedent exists within the law for.
But the
an
residents don't like
individual-
it.
No,
But the residents don't
let
like
me
it.
finish. The precedent exists within the law for an individual to serve as a supervisor and an employee of the township. His salary is reviewed by an outside board of auditors, et cetera. And I resent your questioning his integrity.
But he still voted, he voted himself a pay raise, he voted himself as his boss a pay raise, and he
That's his
voted
job.
his wish list. So, I mean, if he would say no, that would put him in a predicament. But I think your pay raise that you got is justified. 100%.
All right, your time is up. Thanks for dropping by.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Marcia Deeb. I live at 6 Fox Drive. I have 2 comments. One, I'd like to thank the fire chief for putting out new communication. Like we knew right away when Manifold Road was closed. We do appreciate that. My comment on the fire tax is a little bit different. I was here the night we talked about it. We needed it to buy the truck. After the truck is paid for, I think we should take the tax away or we should bring it up for discussion. I don't think it should go on into eternity without ever discussing it again. So that's my only comment on that.
There could be a little clarification here. People are equating the fire tax with one specific truck. That one truck, which is planned for the future, is of course part of the complement within the fire department. But it might be a little naive to assume that that's the only cost that we're trying to cover here. We have well over $1 million worth of cost per year for the fire department. Somebody has to pay that bill, and that somebody is us. I don't like it any more than you do, but it isn't a boondoggle, or it's just the cost of doing business. Now, it's been brought up here tonight, and I'll refute it. Volunteer firefighting in America is over. God bless them. I salute them. I praise them. What they did over many, many years was noble, worthy, free, wonderful. They're not there anymore. We have a responsibility to protect you from fire, pestilence, wind, whatever. And we have hired a professional fire department to do that because we had to, not because we didn't like the volunteers or not because we ran out of ideas. We did it because we had to. And I think if you look at your new fire department, which under this gentleman's leadership has grown enormously with volunteers, with programs, et cetera, you too will be proud of what we've accomplished there. Any other comments?
Mrs. Gabor.
Jeffrey?
Jeff Bull, South Main Street. First question, have we paid our 2022 pension obligations yet?
Yes.
All of them?
No, the police remain.
The police were not made?
The police pension payment remains.
The fire department wasn't, the road department wasn't, and the other employees were not?
No, the non-uniform and the fire were. The police remain.
The
That needs to be
police
paid.
have not been paid?
Correct.
The 2022 pension, okay. You were talking about getting a tax anticipation loan now for 4 months. Is our credit that bad we can't get that? So we can meet our 2022 obligations? I just asked a question, I don't know. If we pay the highest millage in Washington County, and I never believed in comparing anybody with anything. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's a Christian way to conduct yourself. But since you started it, if we're going to compare ourselves with Peters, where's our aquatic park? Where's our acres and acres of parks? Where's our fire department that our township takes care of, in Peters? Why don't we have all the amenities for all the taxes that we pay? Something's not adding up there. Bracken, I appreciated your comments, both earlier addressing the other gentleman, and I appreciated the comments you just said. But this township can't afford what you think we need. I've asked you in the past, on more than one occasion, to be a leader and do what you probably should have done at your time as commissioner. And let's put together a countywide fire department with adequate 24-hour coverage for the region. That's what we need. What you're doing now is you're throwing $100 bills at the wall. And, are they all available for 24-hour call out? Do they all live in the township? I heard you can't staff your evening shift, or there's other shifts you can't because the people have other jobs. I've heard it both ways, and that needs answered, and that's a management question. That's if you hire them, and they should be available for call out 24/7, 365. That's the job of a fireman. And one more thing, I'm going to beg you. I went to Dairy Queen tonight and had a blizzard, and I looked out on that hillside and looked at that dangerous hillside that we're building a housing development in that's not safe for kids to play in. Things are severely out of whack in this township for development. We don't have it under control. We don't have it close to under control. And I beg you for this board to consider a moratorium on development until we figure it out. Figure out Berry Road, figure out Fisher Road, and get some more things in place to do it right. If you're going to do it right. We've always done things right up until the TIF. And then we started down a road, and it's not served us well. It's not served the residents well. Thank you.
Thank you. Just for the record, I'm all but positive, and the chief might be able to bail me out on this. I do not believe there is a single countywide fire department in Pennsylvania. If there is one, I never heard of it. Now, on paper, that sounds like a great idea, and I've actually had it run through my noggin a couple times. But you go talk to your local volunteer fire department about merging with their neighbor across the county and see, you'll be lucky to live through the evening.
Actually, you're wrong. I've had
All right, well,
firemen to come to me, and I've had township supervisors come to me at meetings and say, you have no idea how we're struggling for people. That's exactly what we need.
all right,
We
well,
did have meetings
yeah.
for trying to get a regional fire department. And the only ones that came to the meeting were North Franklin, and they only had 2 members. Nobody else wanted
Been there, done that.
wanted to have a regional fire department. And our current staffing is 24/7. We don't have to call anybody in. They're already on duty.
Mrs. Scavati, it's your
Yes.
turn.
Okay, Charlene Scavati, 85 Pine Valley Road. First of all, I can see the residents are pretty upset, as they should be. I want to know why our township manager does not have to tell the residents why we are hundreds of thousands of dollars in the hole when we had a surplus when he came into our township, and where these monies went. This board has the obligation to look into this matter and not try to sweep it under the rug like it didn't happen. If the board does nothing, then the residents will look into an internal investigation. Also, one of the owners of KLH wanted to come to my property to see if there was a safe flow path from Meadows Landing stormwater running through our property. And Stanek told him he wasn't allowed. Also, Stanek told the board at 2 separate meetings that all of DEP's approvals were in for Meadows Landings for approval, and they were not. Well, on March 10th, I did receive the DEP technical review letter, and it stated that there are currently 191 deficiencies on his approved plan. Yes, 191. Not to mention that the sewage design for over 300 homes is not approved either. And Mr. Stanek, I was wondering if you gave the board or the solicitor that deficiency letter. The sewage design's not improved, and the sewage easement wasn't even recorded as it was required to do. But Mr. Stanek said everything was good. Now we're in court. You're in court, costing us money, when this board was told numerous times of our concerns that as a township, you are to enforce these ordinances. Everything I have told you to enforce or look into are in these 191 deficiencies. I've been called foolish, chicken little, even laughed at public meetings because everyone seemed to think it was funny. Under a right to know, it was even said by Meadows Landing's developer to the township manager that if I was going to be at his final site plan meeting regurgitating untruths, he would just stay home and go to his grandson's baseball game because he wanted everything unconditional. Now who's the liars? Mr. Stanek, you should be fired. And this board needs to step up and do what they're required to do under the municipal planning code. I hope the residents realize now how Stanek has mismanaged our township into ruins. And I do have comments under stormwater, but I'll wait until stormwater comes up. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am,
I just want to make a couple of comments.
certainly.
I'm Lane Zipco from Perry Road.
I didn't recognize you with that mask on,
I
ma'am.
know, I'm the mask writer right now. But I would recommend that the Board of Supervisors contact PSATs
I'm
and
sorry.
have
Say it again.
PSATs,
He coughed when you said contact.
PSATs. And have
PSATs.
someone send a representative here to explain development and how to develop, to use the most tax money the most efficiently. And concentrated housing uses the most tax money. They need more firemen, more policemen, more road crew, as you know, because we take over the roads. Commercial is next. It uses more tax money. Industrial, we are not developing industrial, nothing. We don't want to, okay. That's where you get, they don't have fires. They don't have all these problems. They're very rare. You don't use all this tax money for things that, as long as we keep pushing housing development and concentrated housing, we're going to have worse problems every year. Trust me. I was exposed to one of these representatives, and you have a lot to learn. And maybe we need a new comprehensive plan because our old one isn't working. These aren't temporary things. In 5 years, it's going to be worse.
Thank you, Laney. Other comments? Seeing none, we move on. I would mention that Mr. Weber, all right, I'll get you. Mr. Weber is not here this evening due to illness. He's been excused, sir. Please, we wish him well.
Like you're in 2328 Flint Drive. And thing I wanted to bring up, I know this is not just a problem in South Strabane, it's a problem all over the area. Now it's getting into better weather and we got, more kids out playing and different things. It seems like nobody pays any attention to stop signs. And we have trouble up on Strabane Manor with speeding through, and we've considered trying to approach the township about possibly putting in some more stop signs and that. But I don't know if it's legal or even feasible. Are you able to? Are you allowed to install any kind of cameras or anything for violators? We're just, it's terrible around there. Especially like Fisher Road, they use that as a shortcut coming across. We don't have any sidewalks on the lower end, so the kids are walking on the road. People are walking their dogs on the road, and people are just flying up through there. I know they can't, the police force is spread thin. I mean, it's a pretty good area that they're covering, but appreciate it if there's some way we could look into something to slow people down a bit. I don't know if it would do any good to try to get the speed limit decreased. They don't pay any attention to it anyhow if they're not stopping at stop signs. But anyhow, I just wanted to bring that to.
Thank you. Chief, do you have a comment?
No, we'll certainly.
That's fine.
The list of.
Okay. Just wanted to give you the opportunity.
Ask Brandon. Didn't
Yeah.
we talk about this before and they said to get a petition?
Yeah, I asked him the best way to do
The
that.
best way to do this. We have talked about this before, Brandon, so.
Yeah,
Might
we
wanna
spoke
talk
to
to
the
Brandon.
HOA.
We'll talk,
more-
yes.
Encourage them to get a petition. And if you would like to do the same, you get a petition to lower the speed limit or install a stop sign somewhere. That was the gentleman who went ahead and submitted the petition for the stop sign recently at Flint and Moccasin.
I know they kind of frown on speed bumps because of interfering with plowing and things like that. I don't know if rumble strips help. It's really a hazard. I think there's been several close calls. Residents probably don't catch it.
Other comments, Chief?
Plan to respond to a couple things briefly.
Certainly.
I just wanted to clarify, no points over the past 9, 10 months since I've been here, we dropped below minimum staff. It's contractually obligated that we meet that, and we meet it every single shift, and we have record of that. So I'd be happy to try that, to answer any questions directly if you'd like. Regarding the engine replacements, we are not keeping those. We've already sold the rescue that we have one on order for because it was unsafe. It was removed from service in June of 2022, and that sale went through at the beginning of January. The proceeds from that apparatus are funding the rescue tools that are going on the new engine. And that's being funded by the volunteers. Fire apparatus and equipment in general have over doubled in cost since the last time our volunteers purchased the fire apparatus. It's very difficult all over the country to be able to attract new volunteers, especially younger people. When we do attract them, the last thing that they are willing to do with their free time at no cost is to fundraise. They come to go to fire calls, they come to go to accidents, they come to help. They do not want to work anymore. So to try to purchase future fire apparatus under the volunteers is irresponsible, it's not sustainable. So we are still raising money on the volunteer side. However, that is going towards equipment to go on the trucks, it's going towards recruitment and retention. And anybody who was here last week would have heard the president of the volunteer fire company tell you that that is not sustainable. If you weren't here, it's available online. I'd welcome you to watch their comments about it.
Thank you, Chief.
How many recruits for the volunteers that are you've gotten that are ready to fight fire since you started?
Well, most of them are in classes right now, but in the past year, we've recruited 8 new volunteer firefighters. Career staff to work together. So, and regarding the regional question, every call we respond to of a serious nature, such as a fire we went through today in the city of Washington, to fight a residential structure fire takes at least 14 firefighters. No fire department in Washington County has that staff at hand. The only way that we are able to adequately respond to those calls is through helping each other. So that's why in the city today, South Strabane, the city of Washington, North Strabane, and Peters Township all responded. And that's why our fire budgets are what they are. If we were expected to actually fully and adequately fund 14 firefighters on duty, it would be astronomical. So that is something where we are working together regionally. However, they work for various municipalities. And by the way, since Friday, we've responded to over 32 incidents. And somebody had questions about people responding from home. On Saturday, we had 8 firefighters respond from their homes to come back and help. So we've been very busy, and to be able to respond to those calls involves everybody, both the on-duty crew and the people at home to respond.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, we move on. The next item on the agenda is the approval of meeting minutes. We're going to strike the meeting minutes from December 13th because they were not distributed. But we do have meeting minutes from December 6th, December 30th, non-legislative meeting on February 14th, and the regular meeting minutes of February 28th. Gentlemen.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the approval of payroll for the periods February 19th through March 4th and March 5th through March 18th, and bills for the period of February 25th through March 24th.
So moved.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. At this time, I would like to announce that executive sessions were held with the Board of Supervisors on March 14th, March 24th, and March 28th. These were to discuss personnel and litigation. All right, the Board of Supervisors allocates a period of time at this point for comments regarding stormwater. Each person addressing the board is asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes, and the topic is stormwater. Anyone?
Charlene Scavati.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
It's spring and I was told that there will be inspections done on the stormwater basins in the township, all of them, because they're way overdue. I want Meadows Landing's basins, all 4 inspected by our township engineer, according to the maintenance inspection checklist. That's in our Appendix L of our storm maintenance agreement. There should be money in the maintenance fund for this, so it doesn't cost the township. Mr. Stanek, is there money in this fund? No answer.
Money put into that fund pursuant to the development agreement that is under review currently. So when they do execute the development agreement, which specifies the maintenance fund, they will have to deposit money into that fund.
I was referring to all the other developers as well.
Yeah, I think we had started looking at the maintenance fund and those requirements. Dennis, correct me if I'm wrong, but we started with that shortly after I got here, and that was Mr. Scavati who brought it to our attention. So.
Okay, I'll be checking back on that because there was an issue that Meadows Landing developer said he would get right on it in November, that Kevin Craig found some things wrong on the basin embankment, which is above my home. And as you guessed, seeing the pattern of developer and manager, it still has not been taken care of. Another safety issue not addressed when it comes to us. Another favor for township manager is doing for this developer instead of for our safety. So I want to make that aware that there are some issues on that basin, and Mr. Stanix let it ride since November. All done.
Thank you. Other comments under the MS4 topic? Moving along, township reports, township manager.
The Secretary of Treasurer's report submitted to the board's information. Also, we have received a response from our Census Bureau regarding our challenge to the census figures in 2020. And they have indicated that they were not looking to change the housing units or the population for the township. And I think a little bit further engagement with them to talk a little bit about the economic numbers that they published in the census also to help us understand what those are and where are they gathering those numbers and those amounts from would be helpful. And hopefully they can point us in the right direction. Also, I think we have limb pickup next Monday.
Yes.
Anything happening?
That'll be the second limb pickup Monday. After the storm, it can go into Tuesday, but we will cover the whole township. If we don't get to you on Monday, we will get to you.
If we do miss you, please call. And also, we're closed here, non-emergency offices closed on Good Friday. So happy Easter.
Russ, can you explain how you do the limb pickup? Like what we would need to do if we want you to pick them up?
Excuse me. We can ask the residents clean and bring it up to the curbside because we can't go on private property. So if it's curbside by Monday morning at 7 a.m. when we start, we will start to do the whole township, chip it, and then we take it down to AgriCycle and just our recycling.
We can pile it, you don't want it tied together or anything, right?
No, I'd rather just have a pile because then we have to untie because it'll clog up the chipper.
Just making sure. And Brandon, I wanted to answer something for you. The study, and you should make all the residents of the township aware, is called the American Community Survey. And that's the one that supplements the 10-year head count. So that's the one where you ask where that data comes from. It's that study. It asks more questions than the census form. It's the old long form of the 10-year head count from 2000. And that's where they get all of the data. It's like a 45-minute questionnaire. So it says, but it can be done quicker. But that's what you would be looking into, and that's the only thing that specifically breaks down at that level to a township.
I was lucky enough to have been sent one in 2005.
Lucky, first year they did it.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a quick question. The website indicates that these limbs are to be placed in a biodegradable bag.
No, that's leaf picked up in the fall. That might have been a misprint.
Okay.
Biodegradable paper.
Yeah.
But it says limbs are to be placed in.
No, that-
Whatever.
should not be in the bag.
But
We'll
so
check
that
it out.
requirement is not,
No, because that really clogs up.
okay, I didn't know you can do it, but, okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. Stanek, are you finished or are you still?
On Secretary Treasurer's report.
Yeah.
Just have you, just because the liquid fuel thing that was in there, we taking care of their recommendations.
Not currently, we'll be reviewing it.
Okay.
That was an interesting process.
Now are you finished?
Yes.
Very good. Mr. Solicitor.
The office has been involved with a number of issues involving development, involving personnel matters, and litigation.
Thank you. Township engineer, sir.
Perfect manner. KLH is an inspector on site to put the storm sewers, the roads, and the sanitary sewers. Sanitary work is being built separately for the future. There was a workshop meeting held with staff concerning Act 537 on March 7th. There was a grant application that's been submitted to the Quarry Pump Station. There was a transition meeting held with township staff on March 1st concerning the NS4 report and the preliminary review of a development site on Crowell Road.
Thank you very much. We move on to unfinished business. There is a motion on the table to to amend the Township Police Department Policies and Procedures Manual regarding uniforms. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to take it off of the table.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. The motion is from the table and is now, debate is in order, or a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Seeing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carries 4-0. Number 9, new business. At this time, we will hold a public hearing for the consideration of a conditional use application from Champion Center Enterprises LLC to operate business or professional offices located at 65 Fisher Road in the C3 zoning district. Mr. Solicitor.
At this point in time, we're going to conduct a public hearing. Anybody who's going to testify, would you please stand and be sworn in? Testifying, asking questions, making comments. Please stand. You don't have to, you're an officer of the court.
Okay, say your full name.
Chief Panastic. Johnny.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay, I see we have new counsel in the situation before, I believe. You're still his name, I didn't hear.
Yes, sir. Johnny Miller is my name.
Johnny Miller?
Yes, sir.
All right, are you the applicant?
I am the owner's representation for the applicant.
The applicant's not here to make a presentation?
I am the owner's rep for the applicant. My services have been retained to make this presentation along with our legal counsel.
We'll have testimony. This gentleman is authorized to act on behalf of the applicant to provide testimony in support of the application.
Okay, at this point in time, you're gonna have your client make a presentation.
I'm prepared to make a presentation, yes. Okay, and if the board would just give me a few moments, I have some packets to hand out.
Well, if you're doing that, I'll just want to have some exhibits marked for this proceeding. Thank you, Sean. The first exhibit will be, the exhibit A is the request for board action tonight. Exhibit B is the application for land development plan approval that's dated 2/17/2023. Exhibit C will be the conditional use zoning amendment, curative amendment application submitted by applicants. Exhibit D will be the draft impact study. Exhibit E will be a land purchase agreement between Bass Pro and Champion Christian Center Inc. Exhibit F will be an amendment to land purchase agreement between Bass Pro and also Champion Christian Center Inc. Exhibit G will be a letter from KLH dated February 27, 2023. Exhibit H will be a planning commission memorandum dated January 27, 2023, prepared by Jim Sutter. Exhibit I will be a planning commission memorandum prepared by Jim Sutter, dated February 23rd, 2023. Next, exhibit J will be a copy of the planning commission meeting minutes of February 2nd, 2023. Exhibit K will be a statement or an email from Sarah Scott, former legal counsel for the applicant, dated March 9th, 2023.
Motion is in order to enter exhibits A through K into the record.
I'll make that motion.
Moved
I'll second.
and seconded. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. So ordered.
Okay, Mr. Lodge, it's your time to make a presentation. Hopefully we have some testimony from somebody on behalf of the applicant.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Makel. Members of the board, my name is Thomas Lonich. I'm an attorney licensed in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and I maintain an office here in Washington. I'm here on behalf of Champion Center Enterprises, and we are requesting conditional use approval in the C3 section, zoning section of the township for construction of a business office. Several of them, the items that Mr. Mako identified and were marked as exhibits, particularly the planning commission meeting minutes and notes. I do not have those. I don't know if the planning commission has approved those yet because they didn't have a meeting necessarily approving the minutes in March, but nonetheless.
February 2nd.
Is that the only minutes? Okay, I do have those. All right. I have some exhibits that also may be an overlap, and what I did was pass out the original to the court reporter. Mr. Stanek has a copy and Mr. Mako has a copy. I have packets for each of the supervisors. Hopefully, we're referring to each of these. Make the presentation. I have a copy from Mr. Weber, Mr. Stanek, that was only there. You can pick it up there. I've also provided the court reporter with an entry of my appearance on behalf of the applicant tonight, and through that entry of appearance, I would also request that any documentation or notices pertaining to this be also provided to me. In your packet, you will find Exhibit 1, which is the Commonwealth Pennsylvania website, which indicates a business search, and the Champion Center Enterprises LLC, which is the applicant for this conditional use request, is an entity existing within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Exhibit 2 is the conditional use application filed on behalf of Champion Center Enterprises LLC at Linwood Road in Cannonsburg. The property in question here in South Strabane is located at 65 Fisher Road, Washington, PA. I don't mean to turn my back on you ladies. Okay. The lot size itself is 29 acres. The site size is approximately 10 acres. Exhibit 3 is a section from the zoning ordinance, chapter 245, which deals with C3 zoning districts and mixed uses within that district. As you will see on the second page under B, conditional use, item 1C provides for business office or professional office subject to section 245-115. Exhibit 4 in your packet is from the zoning ordinance and is the definitions provided for business office and professional office. Exhibit 5 is chapter 245 zoning, specifically 245-115 for business or professional offices, which sets out the legislative conditions attached by the zoning ordinance and by the Board of Supervisors. Exhibit 6 is Champion Center Enterprises responses to those conditions set forth in 245-115. Exhibit 7, in addition to the requirements of 245-115, there are requirements that must be met as far as C3 zoning district uses. Those are set forth as well as the applicant's position as to each of those in bold print. I would ask, and I think some of these may have been duplicative, but for our purposes here of the record, at this point that exhibits 1 through 7 be admitted into the record.
Is there a motion to that effect? Moved, seconded. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, the same sign. So ordered. Exhibits 1 through 7 to enter into the record.
Thank you. The next item in your packet is Exhibit 8, which is a hard copy of a presentation, and I'm going to be calling a witness to go through and explain the project, the request of use, and the development. Everybody on the panel should have that. So, all right. Is it all right if Mr. Miller just sits right here and keeps his voice up?
I
Or-
do prefer sitting, being at the code beside it, because that way it's back right now to certain people, so if you stand, you can see and listen better.
Okay. John, if you want to
It's
jump up
also
here.
being televised or zoomed or whatever that term is, so.
I'm gonna ask you to keep your voice up, talk to the panel, and
Yes,
try to
sir.
reach Mr. Makel, and that will reach the court reporter. So,
It's also important that we talk, speak loudly and also slowly, because the reporter may be upset and throw something at you, she can't hear you.
We don't want that. That's right. Okay, I feel comfortable projecting. Can everyone hear me? Okay. Again, my name, again, for the record, is Johnny Miller. I am an owner's representative for Champion
When
Center.
you say you're representing, you expound on what you mean to represent.
Yes, sir. My business
why
is,
don't we do this?
yes, sir.
You've identified yourself for the record, Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Okay, what is your business address?
My business address is 2400 Ansys Drive, Canonsburg, PA, Suite 102. Our business, we have several businesses that all are centered around development and construction. And our services were retained by Champion Center Enterprises as an owner's representation, which is fairly common in development as far as land development applications.
What is your profession?
My profession is a land developer and general contractor.
And are you familiar with the development and the proposed use that brings us here tonight?
Yes, sir.
And in your professional capacity, you're familiar with Champion Center Enterprises. Is that a for-profit entity?
Yes, sir. Champion Center Enterprises is a for-profit entity.
And is Champion Center Enterprises LLC is filed with the state, or excuse me, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, a taxable entity?
That is correct. It is a taxable LLC registered with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
And you are authorized to be here on behalf of Champion Center Enterprises and present the proposed use to the township?
I am, sir. Indeed.
All right. Now, is it your understanding that Champion Center Enterprises and your knowledge of the project as a for-profit LLC would be subject to all the taxes issued by the township as well as any taxing body within the Commonwealth?
That is correct. That is a correct statement, sir.
You have what I've marked as Exhibit 8, the binder in everyone's packet before you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you could go through and starting with what would be the first page or so of this document, provide to the board and scope of the project, what's going to go on, those type of things.
Yes, sir.
And if I feel the need, I will interrupt you with any questions.
Absolutely. So starting on page 1, and I'll proceed through. I can go through the entirety and then be happy to answer questions, or if you,
It's your counsel, it's up to him how he is. He's doing the presentation.
how would you like to handle that?
We're just going to go through. If the
Okay.
board has any specific questions and wants to stop at that point and ask that question, that's fine with us.
Okay. So page 1, just the cover page, Champion Center Enterprises. Again, this is in your binder. Address 65 Fisher Road, Washington, PA, 15301. Property type, business or professional offices. Property tenancy is a multi-tenant property.
So let me stop you right there. So you're saying this is gonna be, what'd you say? A what type of tenant office? So.
Yes, sir.
like, okay, and I'm looking at the drawing, so the barn is lined off into offices, but then I see this facility that looks like it's gonna be a brand new built facility that says multi-purpose
Purpose
room. Well, how
Mr.
is that gonna
Murphy.
be offices?
Can you identify what you're looking at? Because I'm not sure that what
Oh,
we have.
absolutely. I'm looking at this drawing right here.
Well, let me just stop you right there. Mr. Murphy. I forgot. We also have Exhibit L will be the drawing. I believe these were prepared by the engineer for
Yes, sir.
the developer. So we'll make that Exhibit L. Exhibit M will be an email from Sarah Scott to the Township Solicitor dated March 2nd. I'll give you a copy of that. Exhibit N will be a copy of the articles of incorporation of this of this new company. So I request a motion to place that as L.
I got it. I need a motion to place those three
So moved.
exhibits into, moved and seconded. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign, so ordered.
Okay, that's the.
So, go ahead. Oh, I can keep on. Now we're late.
We could have a copy of the drawing you're referring to, Mr. Murphy, so that the witness can actually look at it also.
Oh, absolutely. You can have mine.
I don't know, I'm just making sure that we have whatever Mr. Murphy is.
Okay.
And we do have in the presentation, sir, I believe your question will be addressed. I can bat out of order and scroll to that, or I believe that will be addressed specifically, but I'm happy.
Sure, you go through yours and then I'll come back to mine. That's fine.
Okay, yeah, I'm happy to do whatever is
Go ahead, you
preferable.
go all the way through that. I'll
Okay.
Keep jogging.
So moving to page 2, the executive summary, and again, some of these, obviously you have these, I'll read them a little more quickly, for time's sake. This will be a company that leases office space to entrepreneurs, small businesses, and startups. It provides a convenient, cost-effective solution for businesses that need a professional workspace without the high cost of traditional office leases. And then Champion Center Enterprises says we will acquire and renovate commercial property to create modern, fully equipped office spaces. And again, sir, your question is actually further down here, so I'll make sure I highlight it when I get to it. The market analysis, again, we see a demand for flexible office space. It's been on the rise in recent years, and it's projected that this is a $26 billion industry by the year 2025. COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated the shift towards remote work, creating a need for flexible office solutions. Our target market, as listed on page 3, is small businesses, startups, freelancers, those who need flexible, affordable office solutions. We market our services through targeted online and offline advertising, social media, networking events, and our anticipation and goal is to establish partnerships with local businesses, associations, and chambers of commerce to increase visibility. The services provided by this facility will include flexible availability with access to meeting spaces and training spaces. It will offer a range of office solutions, including private offices, dedicated desks, and co-working spaces. It will be fully equipped with modern amenities such as high-speed internet, printing, scanning, meeting rooms, and a kitchenette. And it will have tenants will have access to additional services such as mail handling and IT support. Our operations, moving further down, we will acquire the commercial property, obviously in question. This is, clearly the business plan, in a prime location that's easily accessible and has good parking facilities. We intend to renovate the existing property to create a modern, functional office space. And the team will include experienced professionals in commercial real estate, hospitality industries, property management, and maintenance staff. A booking system will be used to manage, bless you, bookings and payments. Our financial plan, moving further, financing will be acquired to renovate the property once that property has been secured. Revenue will come from rental income from the tenants. Again, as has been stated on the record, that is revenue that is taxable. And we plan to charge competitive rates that are lower than traditional office leases, but do generate a profit. Moving on, we do have several examples that are in our immediate vicinity that obviously they're called out here, but you're certainly welcome to, to view them, whether it's in person or online. But one of them is the Loft offices, which is the street at the Meadows, 100 Adios Drive. Those are multi-office suites from $1,900 a month and up. There are private offices from $470 a month and open work desks from $110 a month. We also call out South Point Town Center, which is another loft office co-working space. Moving on to Zenith Ridge, which is actually the facility that we currently hold offices in. That features private offices, custom offices, day offices, office packages, and similar to our concept, does include meeting rooms. Each of these, again, which I'll tie into the original question, do feature meeting rooms, and they do feature multi-use rooms with kitchenette. The Loft Center would be the next one on there. Spacious rooms, multiple arrangements for business training, social events. Again, these are examples. The third example is little further north in the city of Pittsburgh, but Rivers Club is another concept. There are multiples if we kept going, through the city of Pittsburgh and into the North Hills. So those are just some examples of similar concepts. The next is just a screenshot. You do have the full, again, land development plan application. This has been submitted to KLH. We do have an initial round of comments that we've received back, and KDH, our civil engineer, is in the process of responding to those comments. That is obviously happening concurrently with this process. But this is a screenshot of just an aerial view. Obviously, this document would be much more comprehensive, and I'm happy to speak to or answer questions that pertain to that. Should those questions arise. Stormwater, I heard already, so that's all dealt with in here, which again, we can certainly elaborate. And then this is, again, a screenshot of ultimately the full plans or I should say multiple page plans that you have. And again, I believe it's Mr. Murphy. Was that your name, sir?
Yes, sir.
So it's pertinent, excuse me, to your question. There are two existing buildings right now. So this is essentially an adaptive reuse of the properties that were originally riding stables. The first is a barn that was used as basically I believe there was hay stored above, and then the horses were actually stabled. And then the property to the left is an existing riding arena, was the original intent and purpose. Obviously, it's since been rezoned to C3. So each of those buildings, that is an adaptive reuse. The center, Mr. Murphy, to your question, is an additional foyer area that knits those two buildings together, so that rather than being two separate parcels, it becomes one, or I shouldn't say parcels, two separate structures. It becomes one structure with flow. That's the primary entrance, similar that what you would see at Zenith Ridge, or the lofts, some of those other examples that we've had in there. And again, in that area, specific to your question, is basically a large area where you can lounge, work freely from chairs or desks. And then there is projected, again, obviously, with conditional approval, that in that area would be a small, cafe and refreshment area. Again, that's fairly common in this modern post-COVID office setting. And then again, moving through into that current riding arena, that's set up for a multi-purpose meeting room. So to your question, that is set up for that. Scrolling down through the presentation, these are just renderings. You could certainly Google or drive past what it looks like right now. It's in disrepair, and it's obviously a non-performing asset as far as on the tax rolls. This is the proposed. Again, some of these, are subject to obviously final approval for building permit, but also subject to final design. But this would be a proposed rendering. It's frankly, in my opinion, obviously opinions are subjective. I think it's a beautiful facility, and we're excited at the possibility of the revenue stream for the business and also for the township. So in conclusion, this business plan is designed to capitalize on the growing demand for office space, rental services by providing small and medium-sized businesses with high-quality, flexible, and affordable solutions, with a strong focus on customer service, modern facilities, and strategic marketing. And we are confident that we can establish a leading position in the local office space rental market. That concludes the prepared presentation.
Mr. Murphy?
So in your offices, and I apologize, I didn't bring my glasses, so. I
heard we got a community set here.
iPad, I can't see them, so in the future, anytime we have drawings, I need.
Bring his
drawings.
glasses.
No, I need drawings, because you can't, when you make it bigger on iPad, it gets blurrier.
You want to get rid of those?
Appreciate it.
No, I'm just looking, and I'm not gonna take a lot of time. So I'll just say, like the smaller rectangle offices, how many people would work out of something like that?
So I think some of those, sir, I'm not prepared to give a specific answer, but the smaller offices would obviously be set up for, I would say, one or possibly two. Again, that's a opinion. I'm not necessarily prepared to answer that, but similar to if you were to go to Zenith Ridge or sorry, I was distracted there. So, Zenith Ridge with the lofts, you'll see smaller office suites incorporated into those structures and facilities.
So you're saying just like a couple of people in those, because the other ones aren't very big. So, I mean, I'm there again, I hope you've done your studies on what's gonna come there, so you're telling me two, so I'll give you three. I'll give you three, well, I'll give you 5 per office, I count 10 offices, that's 50 people. My question is, why is the parking lot like designed for conventions, or, I mean, unless you're gonna have them there?
Let me elaborate on what he's saying.
I'm sorry, the question's for him.
Yeah, go ahead, let him answer. I mean, I'm just.
Well, I'm
trying
going
to
to
figure
jump
it out.
in.
Wait a minute. I'm running this meeting. You just put a cork in it. My question is this, you have 281 parking places and 13 offices. Doing the math, and I'm not exactly a math major, that's 21 and a half people in each office. What am I missing?
Well, look, can I raise
Now
an
you
objection? Thank you, Mr. Byrne. First off, it's a commercial zoned area. To my knowledge, and Mr. Makel can correct me, or, so where is it in the ordinance that sets a limit on the maximum number of parking spaces you're permitted to have?
I didn't say there was a maximum. I said it begs the question. If you have 13 offices and you have 1 or 2 people in each, that's like 30 parking places. You have 281. What in the hell is going on? That's, I mean, that question is jumping off the page.
Yeah, I've raised my objection. I'm gonna allow the witness to elaborate upon that, but the board can ask whatever questions it is. I'll do my role as best I can to indicate what I believe the legalities are legislatively. Again, Mr. Makel will advise the board, but you're asking, why are there so many parking spaces? Why do you expect not to be as successful, or why, whatever it may be? If this witness can answer, I'll allow him to answer. But again, to my knowledge, there isn't anything in the zoning ordinance that says you have a maximum number of spaces. It
No,
deals
there
with the
is not,
minimum.
but it cries out for an answer because
Well,
it is
it-
such an obvious disparity. And
And
we're
if the
here to
witness
ask
can-
questions, and that's my question.
And if the witness.
Are you gonna develop the rest of that property? Is that what you're looking at, or?
Sir, my services have been retained specific to this phase and this submitted application. So I don't have the capacity to speak on behalf of the entity for future development purposes. I'm very knowledgeable for this. Mr. Chairman, I several things because I was involved with KDH as far as the parking design and layout and obviously the architect. So we did thorough research in the code, the ordinances. There is a minimal parking requirement that's based on square footage. So this is not based on chairs or office or anything of that, or how many people may be in the space. The minimal parking based on the township's ordinances is based on square footages. I believe, now again, this is to my recollection, that 30,000 square feet approximately is the finished square footage of this facility. And based on that, there is a minimal required parking space that we are required to meet, which we have met for our application. That parking application minimal for 30,000 square feet, I believe, again, we can certainly, look and add it to facts and findings, is approximately 150 parking spaces. So there is slightly more paved on this proposed. I would also call out just for, other C3 in the township, Tanger has 2,400 parking spaces. So we feel that C3 was designed to bring in maximum revenue for the township and its residences so that fire departments and police departments could be funded. And I think in the future, again, I can only speak to this application. The intent would be that this property would serve the purposes of the board as a C3 that's functioning and bringing in revenue. And therefore, those parking spaces would logically grow to be somewhere in that Tanger neighborhood.
Yeah, let me add that if there is an expansion which requires some approval from the township, then the applicant will be obligated to seek again that
Yes, sir.
approval from the township. If it's mandated by the zoning ordinance or any other ordinance of the township.
Sure. But it does indeed beg the question. I mean, I've looked at plans, I've talked to developers. Who builds like 10 or 20 times what they need just for the sheer joy of it? It just doesn't make sense. Mr. Stanley.
Just the cost of building parking lots, to overpark your site is a little inconsistent with business practices that we witness come in and out of here. I would offer the fact that, what is the vision for the entire site if this is a phase that you're only authorized to talk about?
I didn't say I was only authorized. I said that I've been retained for this phase.
Yeah,
I'm not
this
on the
phase.
board. Yes, sir. I'm not on the board of Champion Center Enterprises. I'm not employed by Champion Center Enterprises other than for my services in this phase. So I don't have knowledge or access to their future plans. I would say, just from as a land developer, again, there's all different business models, but our experience has been that it costs less money to do site infrastructure improvements at one time rather than phase by phase, just because you get economies of scale. So typically, if you're going to come in, you're not going to size the gas line for just what you need then. You're going to oversize that gas line for a projected use of the full, say, 29 point whatever acres. The sewer module, again, the main sewer line by KDH, when this is approved, which is a separate sewer module, separate permit, it won't be simply sized for the present use. It will foresee future use. And again, it would also foresee future use even for adjoining and adjacent parcels for future C3. So our impression in our analysis is that it's not 10 times, it's, a multiple of,
It's 7 times.
it's roughly double.
I just did the math. It's 7 times.
Regardless, I think the point is it becomes more cost effective in the economies of scale. And again, just restating on the record, we have met and comply with that minimal parking requirement. We did research a maximum parking requirement, but we're not able to find that.
Right, I would suggest the entire vision be presented, because that's how this works better. That's how this works best. I know, I'm gonna let the record reflect, my conversation with previous counsel of the applicant was that there was mention other phases would be a business park. And a business park and some kind of business office. So there's different kind of zoning definitions for business park and business professional office. That was a little confusing. Can you shed any light or any clarity on that?
The application that is before you is the extent of my knowledge of the future plans. I will say with 100% certainty and confidence regarding this application that it is fully compliant with the conditional use application for business office. And again,
Solicitor,
sorry,
excuse me, may a member of the audience speak?
Well, how we normally do, how we normally done this in the past, my duties, they have the right to make a presentation. Then the board makes next question.
And then open.
And then we open up to the
Fine. Stay tuned. Let me know when you're finished and we'll move on.
I'm good, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. President, may I ask a
Yes.
question? Back in the fall, I think, your champion church submitted an application for a text amendment to change zoning. Are you aware of that?
I am aware. I was not a part of that conversation at the time. My services have not yet been retained. I'm also aware that that was rescinded and never was formally presented.
And that was to have a church, allow churches that C3 zoning, am I correct?
That's my understanding. Again, I believe that was never formally presented, but I believe there were conversations had about that.
And nor was it the applicant that stands before you tonight that had
Well,
that seat.
just again with Mr. Burns, Commissioner, just for the record, the applicant, Mr. Miller of Enterprise, Mr. Miller is both the incorporator for the church LLC and also for the Enterprise LLC. Am I correct?
Well, my point was that the application that's been provided and presented for the board is Champion Center Enterprises LLC. My understanding, that issue with the text amendment was from a completely different entity.
And just for the record, right, one of the exhibits, this is exhibit N, the business was incorporated, I believe submitted on January 31st, 2023, am I correct?
An LLC was formed.
Correct, the
Wasn't
enterprise,
incorporated.
which was incorporated, I guess, the filing was on February 1st, 2023, which is about a month and a half ago. Correct?
That would be correct if that's what the document said, yes.
For the record, we have no understanding what type of profit, you don't even made any profit at this point in time, am I correct?
I don't believe so. You're aware of any profit?
And during the previous hearing on March 2nd, 2023, before the planning commission, the question was about who is going to use the office. The offices that proposed. And I believe your testimony was that the church offices from North Strabane would move over that area, am I correct? Was that your testimony?
It could be me, it could be Miss Scott. I believe that may have been a comment, but so currently Champion Center Enterprises, pending conditional use approval, would be issuing leases to tenants. And again, Champion Christian Center, which is a separate entity, has expressed interest in being a leaseholder.
So on page 45, I believe this is the transcript.
Yes, sir.
You stated basically, the purchasing entity being related to the church does have an interest in relocating their offices, which are currently in North Strabane to the township. You stated that.
Wait a minute. You're reading from a document which you're indicating the transcript that the witness does not have in front of him. I'm not saying
Well,
you're
let's
reading
ask, let's say
anything
that you
in
recall
front.
saying, how about I do
Yeah.
that?
Or just showing what you're reading from. That's all.
The question, do you recall saying that?
Sir, if you say that it's on the record, then I accept your testimony as such. I've stated clearly in 2 planning commission meetings, I believe that, again, there is interest in Champion Christian Center being a tenant in this proposed office building. So that I do believe, I think that's essentially what you're asking, and I have stated that on the record.
Okay.
I'm not sure I heard a clear answer to Mr. Makel's question as to whether the ownership of this LLC and the church are one and the same. Are they?
I don't know that I would defer to our council. I don't
know, or you don't know whether you want to answer.
I do not know
He
the.
doesn't know.
I heard him, but I found.
I'll be very clear. I do not know. I have not seen. I don't know who owns either of these entities. Again, my services were rendered to come in and present this and work with this development application. So, to be clear, I don't
develop this, but you don't know who you developed it for.
I'm working for Champion Center Enterprises, but you asked me specifically, which I'm trying to answer specifically, if I know the specific owner or ownership or the way that their board is, and I do not know that, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And I would have to say, I'm upset that nobody came from Champion Center to present their case. I mean, and you don't even know who they are. Is that what you're telling me? But I know Miller's a really common name. But your name is what Miller? What's your first name?
Nathan.
John.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm on the record. Johnny Miller is my name.
The pastor of that church by chance? I'm just curious.
I am not a pastor of
I
that.
said, are you related to?
You don't have to answer that. I'm gonna
I'm happy to answer it. But
No, Mr. Makel, I'll enter a legal objection. The relevancy doesn't exist on who this gentleman is related to anymore. Mr. Murphy can ask a question, I can object to it, and I can instruct the witness not to answer. It has nothing to do with this application.
The question, if I may, I think Mr. Murphy was saying, Mr. Murphy's point was that you don't know what's going on at different times, even though you're possibly related to the owner of the company. Is that, I think that's what you're trying to get across, right?
That's an observation he is permitted to make in a comment. The witness doesn't have to answer it, and it has no relevancy in the zoning ordinance or any of the sections, which brings this application here tonight. I'm just getting that on the record.
So noted.
So,
We
so
move on.
noted, yeah, we move on, but my point is, if you are related, you told me you don't know anybody from here, but if you are, then you do, so.
Could I clarify that for the
Yeah,
record?
that's fine. I'm okay with it.
Sir, may I? I didn't, I specifically said, I mean, we could have it read. I do not know the ownership structure of either of those entities. I did not. So again, I don't know who's on each board of those, and I don't know how it's structured as who's a president or vice president. That is the specific question I was asked. That is the specific question I was answered. I was retained by the services of Champion.
Who formed that company 1 month ago? How was that formed? It had to be formed by somebody.
I did not form that, sir. I'm here as the owner's rep. I did not form the entity. I do know this, that it is registered with the state and it is a taxable LLC. I believe it.
I think the church formed that company. Just make a guess.
And the guess is on the record.
All right,
Can I keep going?
sure. Mr.
So
Murphy.
I'm trying to steal my glasses.
Now he's complaining about my glasses.
They need to be stronger.
You need stronger?
No.
I mentioned that to my wife.
So the office building complex, and I'm trying to figure, so the office building complex, is that the riding arena or is that the barn?
The entirety, sir, is the office complex. All of it is the office complex.
So the office complex, and I can't swear to because I don't bring my smartphone into these meetings, but is maybe 3,000 square feet. But the multi-purpose is 12,000. I mean, what are you gonna do with the multi-purpose? 12,000 square foot multi-purpose. What are they gonna do with that?
So the entire facility is the office, and it is approximately 30,000 square feet, which comes back to the parking. So again, everything is a part of the business office, and that is what's been submitted as such in the application, in the civil engineered plans, and then also the construction plans will be submitted as such. One project, one business office. Again, per the presentation that I had made previously, similar to what you would find at Zenith Ridge or the Lofts. These are all very common layouts in.
So you're telling me the Lofts has a building, 12,000 square foot, multi-purpose?
Sir, I don't know the square footage of the Lofts.
That they're similar. So
I did say similar.
You
That is
did
correct.
say. So have you been in that building?
I have been in
Is
several of
there-
these.
And the Lofts, is there a 12,000 square foot multi-purpose facility?
As I mentioned, sir, I do not know the
You
specific
said
square
you-
footages.
All right, I'm not, I just think I don't believe you, so.
I'm giving you direct
Nope,
answers to
nope.
direct questions.
I wanted out on the record, Mr. Murphy's comment that he doesn't
It's all-
believe the
Mr.
applicant.
Lyons,
You can
it's all-
say it.
Mr.
I just want to
Lyons,
make sure it's on the record.
Mr. Burns, Mr. Lyons, it's all on the record.
Okay?
Stay done.
I'm just making sure.
All right.
Mr. Lukatich, do you have any comments or questions?
No.
Mr. Grego?
No, I do not.
The board has spoken and
I'm
questioned
not
and
through
what
my
have you.
presentation.
Pardon me?
I'm not through with my presentation on behalf of the applicant.
Go for it.
You can, if you want to call somebody, but I just wanted to make sure I'm not
You have
done.
somebody else besides him, is that what you're saying?
Mr.
Pardon?
Lonick
Yes.
wants to continue
Yeah.
talking.
And I just want to clarify something, Mr. Miller. Are there any leases exist? This office space has not been created, so there are no leases, signed leases for any tenant, correct?
That is correct. There are no signed leases.
I would call Mr. Stanek as part of our presentation.
State your full name.
Brandon Finn,
You solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I did.
Mr. Stanek, can you state your full name for the record?
Brandon James Stanek,
And what is your position with the township?
Township Manager, Zoning Officer,
How long have you served as a zoning officer?
since December of
2016?
2016.
And as such, you are familiar with the zoning ordinance of South Strabane Township, would that be correct?
Correct.
you are aware of the conditional use application that has been filed by Champion Center Enterprises LLC, correct?
Correct.
All right. If you could look in the packet that I provided, sir, dealing with Exhibit 3 first, excuse me, Exhibit 2 is the conditional use zoning amendment application, correct?
Yes.
And that requests the conditional use approval for business offices at 65 Fisher Road, correct?
Correct.
And the property is zoned in, the property is located in a C3 zoning district, is that correct?
Correct.
If you could look at Exhibit 3, sir. That's section 24571, which provides the authorized uses for a C3 mixed use district. Am I correct?
Yes.
And section B1C, which is on page 2, allows a business office use as a conditional use subject to section 245-115, correct?
Correct.
If you could look at Exhibit 5, included in the packet. Exhibit 5 is the conditional uses legislatively set out in the township zoning ordinance at section 245-115, correct?
Business or professional offices.
For business or professional offices, correct?
Mhm.
You have to answer yes or no for the record. And this is the applicable portion of the zoning ordinance, which is part of the township zoning ordinance, correct?
Correct.
And if you looked at section A of section 245-115, it indicates in the C1 district, the maximum gross floor area devoted to any single business establishment shall be 5,000 square feet. In the R4 district and C3 district, there shall be no limitation on gross floor area. Did I read that correctly, sir?
Yes.
And the applicant has provided a response that this is proposed uses in a C3, therefore pursuant to section A, there's no size limitation to apply. For informational purposes, the proposed use would be approximately 30,000 square feet total, 26,000 square feet already existing with the current building on site. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and so section A requirement, therefore, in response by the applicant has been met.
Yes.
If you look at section B of 245-115, applications for approval shall be accompanied by a plan showing lot lines, adjacent land uses, entrances and exits, pedestrian ways, structure locations, sign placement, utility location and sources, storm drainage, and provisions for buffering to screen adjacent properties. If new construction is proposed, a land development plan shall be required. I read that correctly?
Yes.
And the applicant has provided a proposed site plan to the township. Is that not correct?
Yes, a preliminary development plan?
Yes.
Yes.
And was the preliminary land development approval, or excuse me, application has also been submitted to the township, correct? And is the site plan and land development approval been provided to the township engineer for review and comment?
Yes.
And has the township engineer provided review and comment concerning the site plan or land development plan?
Yes.
Okay, so section B of section 241-115 has been met by the applicant. You agree?
Yes.
If you look at section C of 245-115, it provides that buffer area B, as described in section 245-17A, shall be provided along all property lines adjoining property in an A1, R1, R2, R3, or R4 district. I read that correctly, sir?
Yes.
And the applicant has indicated that the areas of the proposed adjoining A1 zoning district will be landscaped as required. Is that correct?
Mhm.
And you have to answer yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. And as part of the land development review and plan, that would also deal with a buffer area, is that correct?
Yes.
So would you also agree that subsection C has been met by the applicant?
Yes.
If you look at subsection D, excuse me, paragraph D of section 245-115, design, architectural features, materials, landscaping, and associated treatments shall be developed and maintained in a manner compatible with permitted uses in the district and the preservation of residential characteristics of the adjacent residential properties. So did I read that correctly, sir?
Yes.
The applicant has indicated and provided information to the township that the use will comply with this requirement. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not passing judgment on the design of the structure.
You are not. That is something that's passed along to the, for the land development, site plan approval is passed along to the engineer, correct?
Correct.
But the applicant, would you agree the applicant has met the requirements of subsection D?
Mr. Lyons, I think you're asking me to commit to something that's rather,
Just if you don't, just say you don't.
yeah, I won't. No, I don't know.
But the applicant has provided a site plan and land development plan as required by the zoning ordinance for the business or professional offices as a conditional use. Is that correct?
You're asking me for letter D, Mr. Lyons, maintained in a manner compatible with permitted uses in the district and the preservation of residential characteristics of the adjacent residential neighborhoods. That's more of a.
And I'm gonna object to that. I think that's the decision.
Mr. Mayor, decision of planning commission board of
Wait.
supervisors.
I'm gonna object. That's a decision for the board.
In light of that objection, what I'm asking you is to confirm that the site plan and land development plan has been submitted by the applicant to the township.
Correct.
And that has been provided to the township engineer for review.
Correct.
And the township engineer has reviewed it and made comments upon that land development site plan plan. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you're looking out into the audience at the engineer who's shaking his head
Yeah,
in
'cause it's right here.
affirmation with that, correct?
Yeah.
Look at section E of 245-115. It indicates ingress, egress, and internal traffic circulation shall be designed to minimize congestion and ensure safety. The applicant has indicated the site has direct access to Fisher Road and will be developed to comply with this requirement. See site plan for additional detail. I am not asking you to pass comment upon the ingress, egress, or internal traffic circulation, but I'm asking you in your capacity with the township as zoning officer that the applicant has complied to the extent that the applicant has provided a site plan and land development plan.
He has.
And that has been passed upon to the township engineer for review.
It has.
That's all the questions I would have of Mr. Stanek at this time.
I don't believe the applicant provided any follow-up comments from the planning commission since they're with Fisher Road.
Okay, I'm sorry, I apologize. I do have another section.
Sorry, when you talk, you're talking done. I can't hear you.
Okay, I'll try to keep my voice up. Mr. Stanek, if you look at what I've put in the packet as Exhibit 7. And the Exhibit 7 provide additional requirements for all C zoning district uses. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that's part of the township ordinance, zoning ordinance, correct? And Section A deals with a minimum site requirement. And for the proposed use, the zoning ordinance provides that the use is to be 1 acre minimum lot size. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the applicant has indicated through documents and exhibits provided that the minimum lot size will be approximately 10 acres. Is that correct?
That's what it says on Exhibit 7. I think the property is 29 acres.
The site requires 1 acre minimum.
Yes, correct.
And the site itself is projected 10-acre minimum, correct? But the lot is what is provided by subsection B. The lot in itself is 29 acres.
Correct.
Okay, so you would agree that on the documentation provided, the applicant has met the requirement by indicating that the lot size is 10 acres, which meets the minimum lot size required by ordinance of 1 acre.
It's 10 acres of developable land on the 29 acres. That's what I'm not understanding.
Okay, but even if you take the 29 acres,
right,
the requirement has been met, correct?
10 is larger than one.
We're having trouble hearing you.
Please speak up, sir. Can't hear you.
10 is larger than one, 29 is larger than one. I'm familiar with the property is 29 acres.
Okay, so you would agree that that's
Yes,
that and that.
greater than.
Similarly with subsection B, which talks about the minimum of being 1 acre for the lot size, with the lots being approximately 29 acres, that requirement has been met also.
Correct.
I believe that's all I have. Questions I have of Mr. Stanley.
Thank you.
You plan to bring the traffic, the person did the traffic study, you plan to present it tonight,
I have the traffic study.
but that's, you have no one here to present that.
I
The
don't.
person that offered it, is he here?
He is not. My understanding is the requirement of the ordinance is to provide a traffic study. So I would first ask that what I had marked as Exhibit 8, it's in the packet, that be admitted into the record.
Is there a motion to that effect?
Does he have more than that, Mr. Brady, you have more than that?
I do, and I would also ask that Exhibit 9, which is in everyone's packet, which is the traffic study by Trans Associates, that also be admitted into the record.
Need a motion to enter Exhibits 8 and 9 into the record.
I'll make that motion.
Move.
I would, I'm sorry.
What's your attorney?
You really don't have no one here to present it to, you have questions about the traffic study, they're not here. So I would suggest, I would object to Exhibit 9 because there's no one here to provide information to that. That's pure hearsay. So I would object on that basis. 8, I would have no issue with. But Exhibit 9, there's no one here from that authored that traffic study here to ask questions.
Can I respond, Mr. Chairman?
Certainly.
Okay, my understanding of the rules that govern these type of hearings, the formal rules of evidence do not apply, and that the board is free to accept hearsay evidence if it so chooses and give it the weight that it deems is necessary. I also understand under the requirements of the ordinance that all that is necessary is to provide that traffic study and not necessarily have the person who wrote that traffic study be subject to any examination by the board or any member of the public.
So what you're saying basically is give it since he's not here, give it the weight that it says. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I understand that the law indicates, yes.
I still object to that. That's it. 9.
So noted. Is there a motion to enter either or both of these exhibits into the record?
I'll make a motion to enter 8, but not 9, right? Is that what you're telling me?
Correct.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Also.
Moved and seconded. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same sign. For clarity, that's Exhibit 8 only.
Please note my exception to, it's on the record, sorry.
I have a question that I would like to have Brandon Stanek give for the benefit of the public and the record, the present status vis-a-vis the Township Planning Commission, which is the logical route through which something like this passes. Would you bring us up to speed with what did or did not happen in that regard?
Sure. Planning Commission had a public hearing across the course of 2 meetings, February and March. The Planning Commission had requested several items, and one of which was information regarding improvements to Fisher Road. I understand the applicant, and again, my former assistant had staffed that meeting, but what I do understand is that the Planning Commission had asked the applicant to provide information regarding Fisher Road and any improvements to Fisher Road. The applicant had advised it will bring that. I was advised by former legal counsel of the applicant during the week of the planning commission meeting, I think it may have been the Friday following, that they were preparing to bring that to the Board of Supervisors to share with the Board of Supervisors. I don't think that was shared this evening. I believe also the planning commission had a big concern as well with the overparked parking lot. I believe that the planning commission also had concern for one, making the connection with the proposed text amendment for a church that didn't quite make it to a public hearing, but having that application submitted and then coming back in with a different proposal of an office space after having a conversation with staff about a potential conference center at one point in time, was also concerning the planning commission.
I'd also like to ask you to comment for the record on whether or not it is normal procedure for an entity to come to the Board of Supervisors prior to receiving the verdict, if you will, from the Planning Commission.
It's not. And the reason why it's not is because as professional staff, we work very closely with developers and applicants to help them through the process. And so they understand, you know, what to expect when they get to the planning commission, what to expect when they get to the Board of Supervisors. You better have your ducks in a row for this, you better understand how to present this. So with the planning commission's negative recommendation regarding the proposed conditional use, that's why we discussed with them their plan for next steps. And we had stressed to them, especially after on that phone conversation after the planning commission, where they had went ahead and talked about a possible office park at some point, was, hold up, you cannot come to the Board of Supervisors and present something different than what you had at the planning commission. So what then happened was, go ahead and talk to your applicant, and you defer to April, get your thing situated so you can come to the Board of Supervisors and respond appropriately. There was also nudging for them and coaching that to address the planning commission's concern and go back to the planning commission. And so they decided to come to the March Board of Supervisors.
Very good. Are there further questions? Sir?
I know Mr. Mako introduced exhibits, and I think part of those exhibits were apparently the meetings and the recommendations by the planning commission that I do not have. My understanding, Mr. Stanek was not present at any of the meetings, but for the planning commission.
I was done.
So to that extent, what he's giving is a recap based either upon some knowledge, I guess, from Mr. Suter.
Well, it's in the minutes. I read it before this meeting, what he said. That's why I wanted it in the record. It's very clear that the planning commission was not done dealing with this. The planning commission did not approve this. The planning commission had serious objections. And I just think that's part of the record, whether Mr. Stanek was there or not. Other questions from my colleagues? Mr. Murphy?
My other major concern is, and like I said, like this multi-facility. So if you're having a conference there or whatever, a big class, and there's 250 cars out there, it's over 4 o'clock, and we all went to classes, we're like, we all run out to Fisher Road, and the quickest way is making a right-hand turn. And you're going down to Manifold, and that's probably one of the worst intersections in the world. So I do have concerns on like traffic flow. Like, I guess if it does go, I'd say no right turns. They got to go to 19 to the traffic light. Then Strabane Manor not like me because they'll get tied up traffic. So I do have some concerns on like egress, egress onto Fisher Road with that side of the parking lot.
So noted.
One more question.
Yes.
Mr. Lodge, sewage.
Yes,
There's no public sewage right now, correct?
There is not, but there is a plan that obviously, as part of the land development plan, this could only go forward if a condition is placed on it that adequate sewage to the entity be provided.
Is there sewage mean, I don't know where is there public sewage nearby? I mean, what's the plan for that? You know?
I don't know. I know there's always public sewage nearby. It's what it's gonna cost to run it.
because the adjacent development has been working on it for years at great expense. There's Indian burial grounds and all kinds of things that impact it, so it's not just laying a line and having a nice day.
So what he's saying, and what you're saying, Mr. Miller, there's no sewage. Do you have any plans for sewage up there at all?
Yes, sir. So our engineer has sent out letters to the municipal sewer authority for request for service, which is common for when you're beginning a development application. He's sent multiple messages, and I would add on the record that after multiple attempts, he's still not received a return phone call or email, and he is planning to make a physical appearance here tomorrow to try to.
Here or
to the sewer authority, sorry.
Sewage authority is Washington, East Washington. That's in Washington.
So he's working with, again, I'm not the civil engineer, I'm telling you what I was told.
So the development.
On the sewer module.
The development's all based upon getting sewage.
Certainly, that would be a requirement.
It's not a favorable recommendation.
Mr. Lukatich, you have anything further?
I'll get.
You can have.
Mr. Grego. All right, the motion is in order. Oh, I'm sorry. Judy.
Okay. And please bear with me because are you?
I'm not done.
Tom's not back there. Go ahead. Let
Well-
Tom finish.
No, I've acknowledged Judy. Speak.
Well, I'm gonna risk contempt, and I want to place a statement on the record, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Maples, that before the board accept any testimony from those other than the applicant and its representative, I ask that the record reflect that the applicant has a continuing objection regarding the standing of anyone providing such testimony, particularly as it pertains if said testimony meets standards of being affected or impacted as held by the law of the Commonwealth. I would also ask that the board require anybody who provides such testimony to give their name and address within the residency of South Strabane.
We always do that.
Thank you.
Just so I don't have to jump up every time.
Yeah, Judy, would you give your name and your address and then your testimony?
Judy Panasic, Green Crescent Drive. And I also want to note at this point that I was the Cabrini College Religion Department Award winner when I graduated, only because someone on planning was accused of being anti-religion. So I just want to throw that out there. If you guys can bear with me, I did go to both meetings and I have a lot of things that I think should be on the record. First of all, I think before anything is approved tonight, if you do anything, if you're even on the fence to approve this, that you continue the meeting and you go back and watch the planning minutes. And those meetings are very telling. At the meeting, the gentleman, I believe, who is, again, hearsay, was sitting at the first meeting and has never been back. I do believe it is his brother. How can he represent them? They've told us tonight that he is representing them, but he doesn't know who he's representing. I've never, in all my years coming to these meetings, had somebody say that they're the representation, but they don't know who they're here for and they can't answer any of the questions. Never, never has one board, zoning, planning, or this board ever accepted that. They want the people here. The guy who started this is local. He lives local. We make people, the guy from Menards had to keep coming, how many times to come to meetings? He lives locally. This is all local. And again, if you can't, they said at church once, if you lie about something little, you're going to lie about something big. And that's what my concern is with this, that this is something much bigger. I am not against development and I'm not against the right thing coming. But twice, not once, they applied under a church, not once, twice. And they pulled out of those meetings. Sorry, I took notes as things were being said. So bear with me.
Judy, you need my glasses?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
You're a lifesaver.
Thank you so much. I'll be going to see him. You know, Bracken, you brought up the thing about the with the Native American stuff. That's been brought up at the meetings by Jeff, it was Chapman. Chapman was at the first meeting. They brought up not only the Native American issues that have cost them $500,000, 491,000, I think, to be exact. Then they also brought up the stuff about, there was stuff that had to do with like the environment type of thing, like animals, bats, stuff like that. And I'm just gonna throw a couple things out there to get it on the record and then go into what I've written. They mentioned the Rivers Clubs, that holds events. That is not an office space. Which is this, office space or an event? Those are two different things. They're different hours, they're different traffic. And before I forget, the traffic study, was that based on offices or an event? Is that based on the 281 or 75, however, parking spaces? When, and you have it in front of you, I don't. When they based that traffic study, was it based on the parking spaces there? I think that's extremely relevant. And if it wasn't, it needs to be gone back and done over again. Because 200 and some people leaving and going down the death trap that is Manifold Road, you know, what's that gonna happen? If this goes late at night, there are residents all around there. Offices run a certain time frame, and if there's somebody working late, it's one or two people. It's not an event. And, you know, one of the planners made the comment, like, is this gonna be for revivals? The church is known for that. The church has said they're gonna rent to themselves. If you go online and look, it is the same entity. The person who started this a day before the planning meeting, this was started a day before the planning meeting, they did the for-profit. They have refused to answer. Planning asked them if they would say that they will not go nonprofit. They will not answer that question. It was explained to planning that they could actually change everything and go into a nonprofit status very easily. So like saying this tonight and then changing it later is very probable. Let's see here, sorry. I can't read it. Oh, issue with the water runoff. We have a problem in that area, in the Manifold Road, and down that way with water runoff from whatever you brought up tonight, Bracken, the MS4 water runoff stuff.
Yes.
If they've got all those parking spaces, that's the top of the hill going down to that road. That's just gonna add to it. I can't see how we shouldn't be looking greater than that. They are also not willing to lessen the amount of parking spaces. Planning asked them multiple times to take that number down. Why won't they not concede to that? They've gone back and forth if they have other things planned and not planned. Like, we have yet to get a straight answer. How can you vote on something and approve it when we still don't know? I'm gonna read through my stuff right now before I forget, and I don't wanna go all night. I may wanna get home. I'm hurrying. I've been at both meetings. Planners denied this for a reason. Most questions couldn't be answered, and the ones that were vague.
Wait, Judy, you gotta slow down.
Slow down.
She told me.
Judy, you can turn your notes, can't you?
Yeah, you can have this. One of the also I'll try to slow down. They asked planning if they were gonna have revivals, as I stated. Chapman Properties kept calling this a church and said, with all of those parking spaces, what else could it possibly be? The planner was accused of bias when she asked that question. It concerns me that the lawyers for the developer and it concerns me that only the lawyers and the developer's brother have talked at these meetings. The person developing this, like I said, was at the first meeting, never said a word, and has refused to show up. Sorry, I'm repeating myself. I get it. So in any other state thing, the person buying the land, we make speak and make the verbal statements to get them on the record. How did this go from a church to an office building? This is a massive change. And do they plan on having religious services, revivals, or any event pertaining to their church or religious organization at the structure? Because that is not zoned for that. We are being told that this office space, and at the second meeting, they mentioned a gymnasium, which now they're calling something else. But they called it a gymnasium at the second meeting, but it was never mentioned at the first one. Shouldn't we have an actual plan and know exactly what these office spaces are gonna be, as Mark's already covered that tonight. If there are more office spaces, that would, if there are more, if this is more than offices, again, this would affect the traffic study and the hours of operation, noise, lighting, and everything in the community. Okay, I already covered that. They haven't been able to answer how many employees the church is gonna have in their offices there. How can you not know? I have a master's degree in business, and if I were in high school business, I would fail given the lack of detail and knowledge they have of the potential revenue stream for investing millions of dollars into this. They have given not one solid number of any knowledge, even their own church, and how many people are gonna be working there. Let's see, I'm concerned with the TIF. I've had so many people ask me about this lately because they know that I went to meetings about the TIF, and I know it probably better than anyone else, including the Redevelopment Authority in Trinity. Tanger took out bonds in 2008 or 2007. That is when the TIF started, not 2005. It was just voted on that. The TIFs when the TIF started, the bonds started. The most important thing regarding this is the fact that this property, this specific property in the TIF, there were about 4 parcels. This property blights the land. This property touches Fisher Road, creates the third issue for blight because Fisher Road was not wide enough to be considered a township road. Therefore, the TIF was going to pay for a road to go from racetrack all the way over to Manifold, which was never completed. We were forced to take that over because council, that not this council, but their council, when they were on this board, and I asked the specific question in a meeting with Ensinger, I said, will that affect our township if they use that road? And we were told no. I asked about the TIF in that road. They came back a year later and said, now your township has to take this over or we can't go. We were given bad information then. But that TIF, that land, if that stops being something involved with the TIF, how can the TIF keep going on? That was the key blighting factor, was that road not being wide enough, which also leads to that road not being wide enough, which was a concern from planning. What also concerns me is at the planning meeting, Johnny Miller makes the comment that, and he's been talking to Tanger and Chapman, that maybe the township could eminent domain the land next to the property and that they could put the road in to continue Tanger all the way down to Manifold Road. So when there's like things that were said at planning, and then he said he was joking when everybody's jaw dropped. But these are things that are being said. These are plans that they're talking about if they go in. Let's see, Bass Pro has never said they weren't coming. And again, if they were to come, how does this all work? Because they don't own that property anymore. I think this board should also ask, before they make a decision, to get a letter from Bass Pro stating that they do not plan on coming and being part of the TIF or Victory Center. I think that would be relevant too before anything is voted on. And Tanger's lawyer did admit at a planning meeting that they knew in 2006 Bass Pro wasn't coming, which is why they said that recently, but they had a meeting and said we split the bonds. This was in 2006 in case they don't come. So this is something that's always been known and has been on the record. If this group wants to come and build offices, I have no objections. I'm not against development there. I'm not even saying it has to be offices, as long as they're being truthful, paying the taxes and get the zoning. My concern is that none of this is going to happen. We couldn't even get out tonight that he was related to the guy that he's representing. How can you not answer that? I mean, I don't like my sisters, but I admit who they are. I thought you'd like that, Brett.
Strike that from the record.
Will this group, all of them, not their lawyer, put on the record that they have no intention on going tax exempt and that this is not going to be an event center and will remain an office building? The parking should be taken down to what is needed and not excess. And again, if you do plan on doing that, then get another traffic study that fits that parking. Also, why didn't Penn Plastics come? Are there issues with that we need to know about? I think that's everything, Bracken.
Wonderful.
I apologize. Thank you.
I thought it was going to be a sleepover for a minute there.
Mr. Burns, I would like to be sworn in and make one point.
Just for the record, I thought you were sworn in, so.
I did
No,
not.
he did not
I
say
did
that.
not.
Okay.
I wasn't going to say anything.
I would like to too.
All right, so.
All right, let's do it.
Let's swear them in. Please stand.
Please stand.
Jane D. Mark.
Jeff Poole.
You
Jeff
solemnly
Poole.
swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
So ladies first, Mr. Burns.
No, Mr. Poole was first. Jeffrey. With all due respect to ladies, I'm all about it, but.
Especially that lady.
I had recognized him already, that's all.
I guess I wasn't going to say anything because there's been a lot said, and we have a good planning commission. We have professional engineers, professional people on there, bankers and such, that they know what they're doing. And this has been hashed and rehashed. But I realized as Judy was speaking, the most important thing that we're missing here is we did the TIF to give the property the highest and best use. And that was made so it couldn't be nonprofit, couldn't be a church. Okay, we're not going to get into whether they want it to be a church or not. I mean, if it walks like a duck, we don't have to hear the quack. We know what it is. But the important thing is here, Tanger had certain obligations, and the Washington County Redevelopment Authority has certain financial obligations that this township entered into, if you remember correctly, to make improvements for the TIF program. We're not allowed to say Bass Pro at the Planning Commission for one of the members. But anyway, there were improvements to be made by Tanger for their portion and by Bass Pro for their portion. Those improvements included upgrading Fisher Road. Okay, we're getting ourselves in a situation here that we did over where Max and Irma's was, Menards is going to go, where we asked for commitments from the original developer who went out of business, and here we are still fighting Berry Road every month. Anything that goes on Berry Road's mentioned because it's not safe. The fire department has legitimate issues with it. The police department has legitimate issues, and the residents have legitimate issues. Okay, we're going to get ourselves back on Fisher Road with the same thing because we're taking what was designed to be one development, and we're allowing somebody to piecemeal. I mean, there is justice in this world. Mr. Launich was the township attorney for the TIF. I was one of the lead people involved with the TIF and spent countless hours and dollars involved in that. And this is all kind of just watching it all. Everything comes around in life. But here we are. We're going to piecemeal a little piece off. We're not going to get the financial obligations from the developer to make the improvements to the infrastructure that need made. And who's going to get stuck with the bill? The residents. Because in South Strabane, we're not happy unless we've gone out of our way to help the developers and screw the residents. And I think that that's the major consideration here. We're not getting what we bargained for when we got to TIF. We didn't get 80% of what we bargained for. But Mr. Tanger got 80% off his taxes for 20 years.
This way, Mr. Muldoon.
Thank you.
Can I ask him a question?
Yes, sir.
You heard Mr. Miller state that he's contacted Ouija, and you're a member of Ouija, correct?
That is correct.
And you're a director there.
That's correct.
Mr. Miller stated that somebody working for him or somebody has been in contact with Ouija concerning sewage. Can you expound on that?
But the only thing I can tell you is he could have the fellow that takes care of that was on vacation last week and out of phone and internet service. So he may have done that, but that, if I'm not mistaken, here we go with the chickens coming back onto the fence. Wouldn't you normally have gone to the South Strabane Township Sanitary Authority to do that? The answer is yes.
That is where he went, by the way.
There is no sanitary authority. We don't have one.
I'm not a civil engineer, so again, I know he's sent
Okay,
requests.
we don't have one. Right there is your person that takes care of that. Mr. Stanek, was anybody inquire with you about the sewer? Okay, well,
Mr. Stanek, is sewage part of the land development and has to be met? No, not for this.
please forgive my West Virginia roots, but who the hell's going to spend $8 to $10 million and pay for the property and not know whether they're going to have quick access to sewer or not? That's just common sense.
All right, thank you, Janie. It doesn't matter.
Janie Deemer, Edgar Station Road. I will be very short. I'm not as winded as Judy or Jeff. Just in observation, that's why I didn't swear in earlier, but when things were brought to light, it made me have a couple questions. My big concern is I'm thinking that this 29 acres is $1.5 million to purchase. And that was if I had that kind of money and I was going to be the owner, I would be here tonight in person, listening and being able to answer questions from the board And for Mr. John Miller to say he doesn't know who really owns it or he doesn't know who he's working for, I just think that's absurd. My next thought was, I don't know the number, 284 parking places. That's a lot of stormwater runoff. And whether you all know in this room or not, but I've been involved with Penn State Extension, going on their meetings. And in the state of Pennsylvania right now, there's 70 municipalities like townships, like we are here, that have already come up with a tax for stormwater. And they do this big equation on barn roofs, on your house roof, on commercial buildings. And they do this equation, and then that's going to be a new tax for us to pay in Pennsylvania. It's coming. And I alerted the Planning Commission to go on that Zoom meeting with Penn State to get them knowledgeable about it. That's the MS4s. Okay, with that many vehicles, 284, I would think that somewhere in our ordinances, we would have to have 2 ingresses and 2 egresses with that many vehicles leaving at a certain time. I mean, I don't know how you'd have that many people come out. This is a personal thing. I have horses. We have a riding arena. It's 80 feet by 150 feet long. That's exactly 12,000 square feet. The same as Donald Lutch. I knew him. He had the Arabian horse farm over there at 65 Fisher Road. There is no way you can have a meeting in a 12,000 square foot arena without a big sound system or something. It's not like a little gathering place. It's huge. So I don't know where they're going with this space to have a gathering, because I can see if they took the arena and made additional office spaces, but to have this big, that's a big chunk of area. My last question is about sewage and water. To my understanding, and I did the Google Earth thing, there's the Don Lutch's Arabian horse farm. Then there's a big piece of property owned by the Falcone family. Everybody's heard of their name. And then there's the Tanger property. So there's a space between the 29 acres and Tanger. So I don't know how they would get sewage or water across that Falcone property. So I think that would, for me paying $1.5 million for a piece of property, I think my first thing would be, can I get sewage and can I get water? Because with a development like that, they're going to have both. A septic tank won't work. Thank you.
Is it appropriate to close the hearing?
I do. I have a couple
Go ahead.
items in rebuttal. First off, my understanding as far as water runoff, egress or ingress are handled by land development. Is that correct? Yeah, the engineer answered that's correct, and Mr. Stanek is indicating that. So it has no, well.
We can take judicial notice of our rules, okay? Go ahead.
Okay, the sewage, I realize everyone indicates that that's may an issue, and questioning why anybody would want to spend that kind of money, but it's, first off, it's the applicant's money. Secondly, it's sewage. If you don't get the sewage, the project doesn't go to fruition. I mean, that's the bottom line. That's not an issue that's before this board. I did note that in issues before the Planning Commission that there was some question as to the TIF and when it would end. I have a letter, I guess this will be marked as Exhibit 10.
Who's letter from?
The letter is from Kate Cutrar, C-U-T-R-A-R-A.
What's the date of the letter?
Date of the letter, it's an email, excuse me, February 9th, 2023 it appears. My understanding, this somehow came up with the planning commission, and inquiry was made. Ms. Kuchar is a finance director for the redevelopment authority. She spoke with Mr. Fox, Kerry, Kerry, Fox, Fox, who's a community development specialist. And it appears that Ms. Kuchar indicated that the TIF for Victory Center expires in 2025.
Is that Mr. Rogers?
No.
Somebody better tell Tiger.
All right.
I just,
we'll take it early. Yeah, right.
I have just a couple more housekeeping matters. If for any reason the board, if you don't make a decision here tonight, if you have additional questions, I would ask that, or want additional information, that you contact me and provide it to me, and I will provide that to the applicant. And
After the hearing's closed, how can you do that? That's impossible.
well, you
Once
can,
unless you want to see this another date, that's.
no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is if you believe that there's additional information, you can leave the record open for that additional information to be provided. We've made our presentation. You close the record, you close the record. I'm just indicating that if for some reason, but you can always make a motion to open a record, or the board can.
But we have 45 days to make a decision after closing. Based upon the ordinance, based on the decision.
I understand all that. I'm just indicating if for some reason you want to do that, everybody knows how to get a hold of me. So.
Thank you very much.
I would have one more comment, Mr.
Go
Burns.
for it.
I know that there has been discussion. There has been discussion concerning of whether a church is coming to this property, where there will be a church. Statements have been made. Let me just indicate in my presentation that what's before the board is pursuant to the application. There may have been other comments made at the planning commission. The board takes all that into consideration. But it's also an assumption made that if you're assuming that if a church comes, that a church is incapable or not permitted, as defined within the South Strabane ordinances, if it is a church, that the church cannot rent offices or operate out of this office space. If anybody's been to the areas of Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh Diocese, Catholic Diocese, has one of the largest buildings, one of the largest offices that it maintains. I would submit that that is a luxury that the board does not have to make an assumption that this is a church as defined by the South Strabane ordinances, rather than, even if the church is a tenant, then they're not going to be in there operating some type of business aspect and not what seems to be the just to have any type of an activity that's definitionally and provided in South Strabane ordinances. So, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Judy, one last comment?
I don't think anybody has said that they care if the church rents space. The concern is that, one, in planning, they said if a percentage of people that rent are nonprofit, they could turn the whole property nonprofit, one. Two, the other concern is that the arena that they have is going to have services or events that are not something you would have if you had office space. That is not saying, we don't say that the church cannot rent there. Nobody has stated that tonight. We've stated the concerns of what we believe has not been presented by the people proposing this.
Thank you.
I would also add as the one comment.
You're killing me, dude.
Well,
go ahead.
I can't apologize for that and trying to advocate on behalf of my client. In respect to what Mrs. Panasic has said, there are means, what Judy has said, there are means within South Strabane's administration and within the ordinances. If there is a belief that some activity is taking place that either violates a noise ordinance or traffic ordinance or even a use ordinance, then Mr. Stanek, as township manager, provides and conducts those procedures according to those means. So if for some reason he thinks it gets a complaint, it's too loud, it's just like anywhere else. He goes out and investigates the ordinance and looks at a decibel level. If he believes that a use is taking place that's definitionally restricted by South Strabane ordinances, he sends a cease and desist order, works with the township solicitor. Those provisions are in place to take care of any of the concerns that may be there. I would also submit that there may have been suggestions as to whether there is a commitment that you'll not go nonprofit. I'm only throwing it out to the board. Obviously, Mr. Makel can address this, but it is no more improper, if not unconstitutional, to say to a entity, will you agree that you're going to pay taxes if you don't do that for everybody? Just as you wouldn't say to somebody, how about if you pay more taxes than you think is required?
So noted. Thank you. Is it now appropriate to close testimony, close the hearing? A motion to that
I'll make that
effect,
motion.
please.
I'll second it.
Moved, seconded. Seeing no discussion, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. The motion carries 4-0. Is there any other action that my colleagues wish to make on this subject?
I would suggest we get the transcript and deliberate, make a decision.
Does it require tabling or anything, or do we just move on?
Let's move on.
We move on.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sure you'd be glad to see me go, but we're going to leave if have nothing further on the agenda. if that's
Well,
okay
you're
with
going to miss the best part of the meeting. A motion
Well.
to adjourn is in order.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Ways to go, brother. Keep going.
I'm sorry, I read it wrong. My bad, my bad. We're not really adjourning. All right, a motion is in order to direct the planning commission to review standards for electric vehicle charging stations.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, the same sign. The next item is a motion amending the Township Police Department Policies and Procedures Manual regarding the oath of office, legal authority, and direction.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion. Seeing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carries 4-0. A motion is in order to approve a final collective bargaining agreement between South Strabane Township and the Police Department. I believe that a motion to table has been requested.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to table.
Is there a second to the motion to table?
Second.
Discussion. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Letter E, a motion approving an employment agreement with Public Works Director Russell Grego.
I'll make a motion to table that.
Second.
It's been moved to table and seconded. Discussion. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carries. Letter F, a motion approving an employment agreement for a finance director.
So moved with the stipulation that her, what do I want to say, evaluations, all employees' contracts, the evaluation's done sometime between September 1st and September 30th.
So noted. Is there a second to the motion as amended or as clarified?
Also, on page 2, exhibit A, there are 4 duties listed in there, and I believe we wanted those pulled out.
I'm sorry, did you say page 2?
Page 2 of the exhibit A.
HR duties he's talking about.
Okay.
We had previously discussed removing those.
All right. I think it would be in order for you to make a motion to remove that from the agreement before we vote on the agreement. Rich, you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to remove the HR duties that are listed on page 2, exhibit A, of the agreement.
Thank you. It has been seconded. Discussion. Seeing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. The motion carries. It now a motion to approve is in order.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? Second. Discussion. Seeing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carries. And I think we are now on item G, a motion approving a salary adjustment for Fire Chief Jordan Kramer. What is your pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Seeing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign.
Opposed.
Motion carries 3-1. We have a motion to reschedule the next regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors, changing the date from April 25th to April the 18th. Is there such a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Just for clarification, that's because of a state convention that some of us are attending. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Now the moment we've all been waiting for. This meeting stands adjourned. It's not going to be a sleep.